Hi everyone, Jennifer Sampu here with the mashup, which is all about combining Sky Ombre with your stash, and how Sky Ombre is really a great teacher because there's just tons of color in every piece. So yesterday, if you tuned in, I had done a whole process with Colette about putting up the evening sky fabric and then choosing a bunch of fabrics that go from selvage to selvage, light to dark, and all the colors of the sky, which you'll see because I was continuing to work yesterday. And let me just finish up the seam. The nice thing about making this Octagon shimmer is you're stripping pieces of fabric here. So this doesn't look like much now, which we all know about that with quilting. And right here, I'm just gonna press, this is what I just sewed on. And this is an old Smithsonian reproduction from RJR. So I have fabrics, I mean, this is an old Concord. And then here's my skies, and this is my chalk and charcoal, and this is one of my old yarn dyes, and this is one of the sky kites, that I cut out. So here's the back. I'm gonna give it a little more of a press, pressing the seams away from the center sky. And you see that my strips range from really narrow, like a 1-inch strip, or maybe that was even a 3/4, and then to something as big as maybe 5 or 6 inches. I'm not using steam, and the only place I have to be really careful about my 1/4-inch seam allowance is the very first 2 pieces that I put on each side of this center kite, because this shape here is the most important. These are going to get cut off. So come on with me to the cutting table and I'll show you. So, this is a great Kai rotary cutter. My friend gave this to me at my last class, and I love it. So anyway, when I'm cutting this up, the important part of this Octagon shimmer is getting your point right here and here. And there. Whenever we film, that cues my cat to start meowing. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut this big piece here, there, and that goes in the scrap pile. And then I gotta arc my body. It's kind of awkward, but it's really important for you to hold this big template down so that you get a nice clean cut. But this is what is so great about this template. So here you have one of the building blocks. So you need 32 of these to create this guy here, 32. And so back to working with the blocks. So I'm going to cut a few more, but you end up putting your points together and you end up making your octagon. And you're making 2 simultaneous octagons. That's what is a bit of a head scratcher when you first start creating this pattern, is that while you are building this, can you see that I'm starting to build this octagon here? And I'm going to cut a few more, that these go point to point and then side to side. The kites are what define what's going on in this inner octagon. So let's keep cutting a few, but you can see how pretty this is. Like, see how this is the evening, and then I pull other ombres in here, but see how fun it is with the prints. So let me get a few more cut and you can watch me cut these up, because that's what's so fun. I mean, here's some that that I made yesterday. I love the scrappiness of this. And again, this is all based on one fabric. All of these choices came because of evening. So it's your color teacher. And it's a foolproof way for you to choose color.
Someone would like to know, like, they're not all completely finished to each point.
No, that's a great question, because no, that is, if you have my pattern, so much of the improv within structure is about your final decisions. See how that's all really colorful in here? And I go dark, light, medium, and I go around dark, light, and I add these little strips when they're this size near the very, very end. So no, you don't finish them. And sometimes if they happen to be finished, like this one here, that may not stay as this dark little point. That might have to go like a bright color, like a bright light color. It depends on what it's next to. So that's a really great question. Thank you for, that was a great one. Thank you for asking that. This is just so fun. And so here you've got how pretty this is. See how that came out? Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. So yeah, no, these tips aren't done, and I don't really want them to be done, because even if they are close to being done, they will probably get changed based on what they're next to. So here's another block that I worked on yesterday. And the other thing to note, this and this end of the triangle and this end of the triangle are going to be in two completely different octagon shapes. So that gets a little confusing at first. This is not in the same colorway, so they don't have to exactly relate. And I don't even know where this is going. I don't know what this piece is going to look like in the end. So you have to be okay with just trusting the process and knowing that you are just enjoying putting fabric together, and your designing isn't all done in the beginning. You're designing as you go. And to me, that's the most exciting way to design. So look how pretty that one is. I love that. I love that. And I think
this one's very calming.
Isn't it? Yeah. I think it's like a cave. I think that might be a cave facet stripe. So there's another one. And then here's what I also built yesterday. Here. I'm going to cut this one out. Okay. And see how I made this much bigger? I cut this larger, and I do a technique on my YouTube video of why I do that. The reason why is because I don't want to have it cut exact to size, because if you sew that seam slightly off because you're dealing with biases and triangles, you can make a mistake really easily by not having enough fabric. And that's just a bummer. Okay. And it's really nice to just be able to move around your board. Okay. There's that. I'm getting a quick... You do have a lot of scraps left over, and that would be great for an improv quilt. Okay, so here's another one. And then I think I have one more. I've got two more to cut. and then we'll put these up on the board, and we'll see what it looks like. And we'll talk about, do I need more of the evening sky? Because I realize I haven't used a lot of the evening sky in the actual quilt. It's been
You've got evening right in the center there now.
Oh, I do. That's good eye. Yeah, I bet people wouldn't even notice that. Thank you, Colette. Yeah. That is the lighter end of evening. And this is an old Pilgrim Roy. Oh my God, isn't that awesome?
It's fun.
Yeah, that's like a knockoff. Like When I worked with Paul Pilgrim and Jerry Roy in the early 90s at P&B Textiles, oh my God, I love them. They're historians, textile and quilt historians, and they loved all the old quilts, and we would use their old quilts and all their old stash of fabrics, and then we would redesign and recolor them. Now here's an interesting piece. This is only half, and that's typical. I might only make half of the octagon because I don't know, again, where this is going to be going, and sometimes it's easier to work on just half the side and work one whole octagon by itself and not do both sides. Makes it less, takes some of the guesswork out. If you don't like too much guesswork, this is another way to work. So let's bring these up to the board and see what happens. Look at how, again, how neat this is to put the sky in here. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I love it. And Colette, you were loving like this combination here.
Mm-hmm. And it ties in with the pinks.
Right? It brings the pinks, the yellows, and then this is so yummy, this whole side, that you might not normally put all these fabrics together, but because this is your teacher, you know it works. Let's start with maybe dark kites in the center. Let's start with that. So this kite has to be, so I'm using this line, you can see this line in my board as like a right angle. So the first triangle is going to go up like that. And then I'm going to try, what am I going to try next? Let's try this one. And so this one, you have to kiss the points of the kites. So this one will lay right here.
It's already looking really cool.
Oh, good. Okay,
yeah.
Good. So see how this kisses the points? You got kite to kite. And so you're just starting to build the inside of your octagon. And then I can take this one here. I'm just kind of going with these light mid-tone kites of Sky, which that's kind of what I'm using as my guide right now. And then there's building the next octagon. And here's an interesting piece. This is one that's just one huge piece of Sky. And I think this is not even, this is probably...
It's powder.
Is it powder? Oh, thanks. Good job. It's powder. So I'm not how is that working? Is it getting confusing or can you see it? Because sometimes they get a little confusing and that's when I have to kind of go in and rearrange things.
Now I just started to see the octagon when you put that there.
Okay.
There it's coming together.
There it's coming together. And then this is super scrappy. It's really scrappy. That goes here, and then we're getting into the dark area. And then, let's just say, well, I can't use this one because I could use it. I just haven't built this part of the octagon yet. So now I would have to fill in this area. And, you start playing with, do you like all this big white piece here? When I'm right on top of it, I think I like this feeling better, but that's where you have to get away from your work, right? So for now, my kind of gut is I didn't like that big white piece in there. That belongs in another octagon that's going to be lighter. So how does that feel better, Colette?
I like that better.
Yeah, right? Because it's
still lighter, but
right. It's a better blend into here because this is a strong contrast from here to here, but this is really nice in here. Maybe try this in here. That's kind of pretty too. So I have to step back, and that's just 8 of them. And let me step back for a second and take a look. Yeah, so what I'm seeing here, this is really heavy and heavy, right? And I'm definitely going to play around with these. And if I like the heavy and heavy right here, I think I actually want to put heavy again. When I say heavy, I mean like a dark value. So this dark kite is really helping to define this side of the octagon. And then maybe I do come back this way. And all my octagons aren't going to be dark. I mean, if you look on my table over here, Colette, I have cut my kites. What did I say? All my octagons, all my kites. All my kites are not the same value. I've cut from dark to light because these are all just from the evening. So this is how you play, and you just, more ideas start coming into your mind as you start to work on layout. And then we step back again. I'm constantly stepping back. Yeah, so okay, now what I see here, this is too heavy to me. It really it's too heavy. It competes with these because of value. So I will probably, and this is where improv comes in. What happens if we put a piece, if we put a piece on top of it? So this is where I might redesign this block.
I like that.
Right? See how that works?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then what I'm seeing is this is wonderful for defining. And so I'll probably add some strips of dark. If I keep this as is, I'm going to keep building. Your first 8 to 15, you can just make what you like. But then as you start narrowing in, you're going to have to think a little bit more about what your construction is going to be. Are you going to have light octagons and dark, or dark and light, or does the whole thing shadow across? So this is just one way. And where's my other quilt? Is this one, which I showed you guys yesterday. You can see it online. Is my more colorful one. But I think I'm going to wrap up now to just show you how Sky works as a color teacher. And thanks for stopping by today.